Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The National Blast podcast with Keenan Skelly. Join Keenan and guests as they blast you to a place that is certainly not boring, yet still giving you highlights from areas in cyber where key policies and legislation are needed, exist, but aren't enforced, or no one is even talking about it. Knowledge is power, now more than ever. V-Armor enables organizations to protect their data, digital assets, and themselves through a complete understanding of all applications and identities, and the information relationships between them. Every application, every user, every data element. Learn more at varmor.com.
Tim Eades, co-founder of the Cyber Mentor Fund, and talking about all of the interesting things that are coming out of, people hacking VCs and all the good stuff that we're going to do in the future to help them prepare. Yeah, so I saw Sequoia had this happen, obviously, earlier in the year, and then the second one has come up now with a pretty hefty ransomware, payout that they're paying. And I'm just curious, as we talk through this, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on hackers going after venture capital. I mean, it makes sense to me, but how do we stop that, right?
I mean, it makes total sense, right? They're incredible. They have incredible sets of assets. And I'm not sure I know a venture firm that has a CISO. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, is there one? I mean, they have IT people. I mean, I know the Andreessen guys, I'm sure, have IT people. Do they have a CISO? Do they have a security program? Have they been on the radar before?
Yep.
Right? That's the question. And, I'm an investor in a bunch of venture funds. And I have my own seed fund on the side. Their assets are incredibly valuable. Their insight is ridiculous. There's a lot of intellectual property there. Of why to invest, how to invest, in addition to the assets that they have knowledge on the portfolios and everything else that cannot be exposed. I wonder if they have a CISO. Do they have a security program that they are proud of? It's not a rhetorical question, but it's out there. That's a challenge question for them. And if I was a general partner of the fund, I would go, hold on a second, let me have a look at this.
Absolutely. It's really interesting. In my current role, we talk to a lot of investors, and as we've been doing this, they've kind of brought to light some of the things that we're doing for other companies, for other brands, not necessarily for them because of these hacks. They're wondering now what their profile looks like on the dark web. Is that something that you think about or worry about?
Yeah. I mean, so then everybody looks at, we could be more programmatic about understanding what our reputation is on the dark web. I would say that we reviewed it the other week. We have a process. We have some friends in the industry that we all. Once you've been in the security for 20 or 30 years, there's ways that you can understand it and get the real knowledge out of it. We got some great friends at Intel, 471 and stuff. I think it's a really good point actually. That everybody needs to be more programmatic, right? And structured, that they have to monitor that stuff. And it's your responsibility to do it. And I think, obviously venture firms now are head scratching, going like, okay, do they even know they've been attacked sometimes? I mean, ransomware is one thing, but do they even know that they've been attacked?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, right? I was reading the second article that I sent you, and I'll post all the articles on the page when this posts, but it's just unbelievable when you look at a $1 billion number from a venture capitalist or, even in private equity. And I just keep wondering, all of the other data that goes with that. So if they're not, you mentioned intellectual property earlier, when you start talking about intellectual property and all the due diligence that's done on all of the companies that get funded and the companies that maybe don't get funded, right?
Yeah, totally.
Then you start, the amount of data there is massive, and it concerns me just as a human being that is really out there, and maybe not. I mean, I'm sure it's protected in terms of the accounting and the financial sides of things and how they would normally protect it. But is it protected the same way banks look at protection, the same way that Wall Street looks at protection? I don't know.
And certainly not. Certainly not. I mean, you've got venture funds, you've got PE funds, you've got even some small hedge funds that have, billions and billions and billions under management. And like you said, it's like things that get funded, the things that don't get funded, the deals that they're looking at, the M&A deals that they're looking at, the roll-up things that they're looking at, like all of that stuff. And do they have the same level of security program as a decent-sized bank? I'm sure they don't. I'm absolutely positive they don't. They don't even, interesting enough, these people have lots of money. So it's not an allocation of budget. It's a focus, right? And they got to pay attention to it. And I'm a limited partner in probably 10 different venture funds. So, and I partner with them in my seed fund. So we know this market well. And, this is a wake up call, right? And it is. It's a real one.
And it's a big one. It's a heavy price tag big one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the consequences are crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So as I was reading about this, one of the other things that popped into my head, everything is kind of really focused on critical infrastructure right now because of the pipeline attack. And as you know, I've been in critical infrastructure for a long time. So I'm following these kind of stories very closely. But it made me consider when I read the article that perhaps this should be part of critical infrastructure, that there are financial services and economic activities that maybe should become critical infrastructure because of the impact that they have on the economy. Imagine if VCs start going down and dropping like flies in private equity, and they're spending all of their time wrapped up in litigation and trying to figure out how to get out of a hack, then they're not really investing in companies, and companies aren't building things, and second, third order kind of effects. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So you got, obviously, the big banks are classed as critical infrastructure. So where do you draw the line? Is it on the amount of money under management? Is it the number of companies that they're invested in, or the impact, that if they got hampered?
Oh yeah.
I think the other, it ties to we were chatting earlier about the executive order, where ignorance is no longer an excuse.
Yes.
Right. And so I think. I mean, are they critical infrastructure? I'm not sure about that. Are they critical to the economy? Yeah, I certainly the big PE guys would be. The Silver Lakes, the Tomos. Yeah, the Vistas, the Tomos, the Silver Lake. Yeah, have got to be. So I would imagine that they would have to be touched. But I mean, I think what the news from the administration around ignorance, like I said, ignorance is not an excuse. Now, and you apply that to the venture world, okay. And the good news is that it's not that they don't want to do it. So now I'm sure they'll be rushing around trying to shore everything up and putting the right security on their phones and everything else.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for joining in. This is such a great topic. Are there any other ideas that you have? Last kind of thoughts about what people can do, what venture capitalists and PE firms can do to kind of get ahead of this?
Well, it's interesting, right? So the venture firms are very much grouped, like you've got great firms like Dave DeWalt's Night Dragon and Bob Ackerman's Eades, and Jay Leake's new fund, Sin Ventures rather. And those, they know security inside out, back to front. Right? All they do is in security. They have advisors that are in security. I'm sure they've applied it to themselves, but it's a long tail in venture capital, right? I mean, so I'm not going to point fingers, but so much as to say, like, I'm sure they don't have the same approach to security because they don't have the same knowledge of security. So I think it is a stark wake up call. And you do not want to be the next person up in that article, right? Because that's going to be brutal, and you never raise another fund again if you're not careful, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe the way that you have to turn around, and obviously all these venture funds work with that 2 and 20 principle. 2% of the fund goes to the kind of operating cost. maybe it turns around, maybe it needs to go to 2.25, and the rest of it needs to be sold on, rolled into like cybersecurity readiness and protection programs.
I think I have a crazy idea, because I throw out crazy ideas all the time on this show because I can. So my crazy idea is maybe those of us who are in cybersecurity and in venture capital and maybe we start like an industry group where we can kind of meet with all of the folks or folks who want to participate and say, okay, Chatham House rules, let's talk about your security. Let's see what we can fix.
And do one of those for venture capital, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you get all the guys together and say, like, okay, cards on the table. What's going on here?
Yep.
Yeah. That would be a very interesting thing to do. I think you should push for that. If you need help with it,
I'm adding it to my list, which also includes have Biden on the show for hacker rights. Warner on the show for breach verification. Create a VC security working group just to get some hands on. I think that's a great idea.
You know what? You should get Dave DeWalt. Get Dave on it, and I can help with that. We'll get Dave on it and say, look, hey, best practices. And share it, and then I think that'd be a great idea.
I love it. I'm so glad you love it.
Fantastic.
I love it when people love
it. It's good. Yeah. I mean, the banks do it, or the FSISAC, right?
Absolutely.
The healthcare organization, National Healthcare ISAC, they do it. Why don't they have a thing for venture capital? Sure.
Absolutely. I think that's
that's what you're taking it to, right? It's an ISAC for venture capital, essentially.
100%. Tim Eades.
Good to see you looking so well. I'm really sad that you didn't make it to Vegas, but I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, definitely. You're one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. And I know I say that on every podcast, but it's literally true. These are my favorite people in the world. That's why I bring them here. I'm always around to help. And if you need help with a venture ISAC, then venture security ISAC, we should totally do it. That'd be fun. 100%. I'm going to email you literally right after this. Thank you so much, Tim. This has been amazing. You're a star. Be well. Thank you.
vArmor enables organizations to protect their data, digital assets, and themselves through a complete understanding of all applications and identities, and the information relationships between them. Every application, every user, every data element. Learn more at vArmor.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the National Blast Podcast with Keenan Skelly. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.